You ever get that strange feeling when you walk into a place? Like something just isn't right? That's exactly what hit me the moment I stepped into room 406 of the old Grandview Hotel. I was on a work trip, staying for just one night. It was an old hotel, a bit run down, but close enough to where I needed to be the next day. I checked in late, sometime after 11 p.m., and the lobby was almost empty, save for the tired-looking receptionist. He gave me a strange look when I asked for the key to my room. He hesitated, like he was about to say something, but handed me the key with a forced smile. "Enjoy your stay," he mumbled. The elevator ride up was painfully slow, each ding echoing in the empty hallways. When I stepped out onto the 4th floor, I immediately noticed how quiet it was. No TVs blaring through the walls, no late-night chatter, just silence. I found room 406 at the very end of the hall. The door looked just like the others, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. Brushing it off, I unlocked the door and stepped inside. The room was nothing special. A king-sized bed with a heavy burgundy comforter, an old TV, and a small bathroom. But the air, it felt heavy, stale almost, the kind of thick air that made it hard to breathe. I tossed my suitcase on the bed and started to settle in when I noticed something odd. The room was freezing, way colder than the hallway had been. I walked over to the thermostat to adjust it, but it was already cranked up to 72 degrees. Yet, it felt like I'd walked into a freezer. Great, I thought. A broken thermostat. Just my luck. I figured I'd call down to the front desk to ask for a blanket or maybe even change rooms. But when I picked up the phone, there was no dial tone. I hung it up and tried again. Still nothing. Dead. At this point, I was a bit annoyed. All I wanted was to sleep, so I decided I'd deal with it in the morning. That's when things started to get weird. I was unpacking my things when I heard it. A faint sound, almost like whispering. I froze, listening carefully, but it was so soft I couldn't make out any words. At first, I thought maybe it was just someone in the room next door. But when I looked at the wall behind the bed, I remembered something odd. Room 406 was at the end of the hall. There wasn't any room next door. I tried to shake it off as my imagination, but the feeling of being watched wouldn't go away. Every hair on the back of my neck stood on end. I forced myself to brush my teeth and get into bed, pulling the covers up tight like a kid hiding from monsters. As I lay there, staring at the ceiling, the whispering started again, louder this time. It was unmistakable, like someone was standing right behind me, and it murmuring just below the surface of hearing. My heart raced, and I turned on the lamp, sitting up in bed. There was nothing, just the same old room, but the whispers, they weren't stopping. They seemed to come from the walls, the corners of the room, growing louder but still incoherent, like a conversation I couldn't understand. Then suddenly, it stopped. That's when I noticed it. The bathroom door, which I had left closed, was now slightly ajar. Just a crack, but enough to see that the light inside had flickered on. My pulse quickened. I hadn't turned on the bathroom light. In fact, I was certain I'd shut the door when I first came in. I wanted to get up, to check it out, but something in me screamed not to move. My body was paralyzed with fear. I kept staring at the crack in the door, my mind racing with all the possible explanations, none of them comforting. I tried to convince myself it was just a glitch in the wiring, or maybe I hadn't closed the door as tightly as I thought. But then, the door slowly creaked open. It moved, inch by inch, as if someone, or something, was pushing it from the other side. The light in the bathroom flickered again, casting eerie shadows across the floor. My breathing grew shallow as I watched, waiting for whatever was on the other side to reveal itself. I couldn't take it anymore. I grabbed my phone and tried to call for help. No signal. The clock on the bedside table read 3:06 a.m. That's when I heard the footsteps. They were soft at first, barely audible, coming from the bathroom. Slow, deliberate footsteps on the tile. I couldn't see anyone, but I could hear them, getting closer. My heart pounded in my chest. I clutched the covers tighter, too terrified to move. Then, the bathroom light went out. The room was plunged into darkness, and the footsteps stopped, replaced by the whispering again. But this time, it was right next to my ear. Something cold brushed against my arm like an icy hand, and that was it. I bolted out of the bed, grabbed my suitcase, and ran for the door. I didn't care if I left anything behind. I just had to get out. As I threw open the door, I glanced back one last time. The bathroom light flickered on again, and there, standing in the doorway, was the faint outline of a figure, tall, shadowy, and watching me. I slammed the door shut behind me and ran down the hall, not stopping until I reached the lobby. The receptionist barely looked surprised when I told him I needed a different room. He just nodded, handed me a new key, and said, "It happens sometimes. It happens sometimes." I didn't sleep for the rest of the night, and the next morning, when I checked out, I asked the receptionist about room 406. He hesitated, then leaned in close. "You're not the first one to ask," he said quietly. "That room, well, let's just say it's got history. Back in the 80s, a woman died in there, alone. People say she never really left the hotel that morning and swore I'd never come back. But sometimes in the dead of night, I still hear the whispering. And I wonder, did I leave room 406, or did something from that room follow me home?"